Are you feeling stuck, lost, or confused about what to do next in your career? Then the Manifest Your Career podcast is just right for you. I'm your host, Dr. Norma Reyes, a career mindset coach. I help successful Latinas who are battling self-doubt, self-sabotage, and imposter syndrome. I teach my clients how to combine their intuition, skills, and knowledge so that they can manifest their dream career. It's time you start listening to your inner wisdom and guidance. Tune in each week to the Manifest Your Career podcast and learn how to align your mindset to your career goals. Keep listening, and together we'll manifest your dream career. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 50, and today's episode, I have another guest interview for you. Today's guest is Doctora Ana Guerrero, and she shares her career journey with us. For more than 10 years, Ana has actively advocated and supported first-gen college students in many capacities. She believes access to information and guidance is crucial for first-gen college students. She founded First-Gen Resilience, and it's grounded in research, practice, and personal experience. First-Gen Resilience empowers students by providing higher education information, exposure, guidance, and motivation with a holistic, culturally proficient approach. So I can't wait for you guys to hear her career journey and how to connect with her. Thank you so much for being here with me, Doctora Guerrero. I would like you to first start off with telling us all about your family background. Where did you grow up and whom did you live with?
Well, first, thank you for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here. So I was born in Mexico, Mexico City, but my family is actually from Michoacan, Mexico. And we came here to the US when I was 1. So that was my parents, myself, and my older brother. And we arrived in Goleta, California, which we're still here. We were raised on a ranch, so I really did have that wild child kind of upbringing, climbing trees and playing in the dirt. The ranch was called Venadito Canyon Ranch, so I lived there since I was 1 up until I believe at 18. I also attended a very small school from preschool to 8th grade. And this is how small it was. We were less than 100 students attending that school. And it was out where a lot of us who lived in the ranches, where our parents worked for the owners of those ranches, attended. So it was quite interesting. But yeah, that was my upbringing, my background.
So then when they say, all right, eres del rancho, you could really say yes.
Yo soy de rancho. 100%. We rode horses and all that. So it had a tree house, broken arm or two,
Well, I was about to say that's nice. Maybe not the broken arms, but that's like a completely different, it makes you a whole different person. And here, living in a ranch, right? Having the option to be even to go to a ranch, it's a privilege, it's a luxury. When sometimes that's often looked down on, in Mexico. But really, I would have loved to have ridden horses. I guess there's nothing stopping me from doing it now. Note to self. So now, when you were young and people asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up, what do you recall telling them?
So, funny thing, I wanted to be a professional soccer player. I loved soccer. I was obsessed. And I grew up with a soccer obsessed dad as well. So he fed into that, but obviously that did not happen, that did not work out. And I was actually really interested in culture. History intrigues me, places of the world. Like I would spend time imagining myself living in, sometime in history, specifically in Mesoamerica. Like I would literally envision myself as a little girl thinking what it would have been like, what my life would have been like. So I didn't have a name for that at the moment. I just know that that's, what intrigued me. But now I know that I wanted to be a cultural anthropologist. Like that is what I wanted to be. That was my kind of like my pull. Again, that didn't happen for many reasons, right? So I think the biggest one is that there was no like awareness of different career options and how to pursue that interest. So that didn't happen, but I'm still pretty much I dive into this interest of mine, this passion, by visiting archaeological sites. So traveling the world and reading, watching documentaries on history. And I travel a lot. So I'm still doing what I, was hoping to do in the future, and just not as a career, right? So just kind of on my free time. And then in high school, I knew that I wanted to work with people. I didn't know to what capacity or at what capacity. I just knew that I wanted to be of service to others, and so other underrepresented students. Like I said, I grew up in a ranch, which a lot of my friends also grew up in these ranches. We were working for the owner, so obviously we were under resourced and very little kind of support there in terms of the career development. And then in college, that's when I refined my interest a little bit more. And I knew that I wanted to understand society. I wanted to understand why things are the way they are. So that's where I chose sociology, and specifically sociology of education. I just wish I had an opportunity to explore other options. But yeah, thinking back, these are kind of like the main things that I remember.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate with all that. I started my college major in computer science, which
Mm.
was like I really didn't know what computer science was at the time, right? Like it was just like people were like, "You're
Mm-hmm.
smart, you're good at computers," and whatever that means, right? Because you're good at computers. What does that really mean? I think it was before we had the words for being tech savvy. But being tech savvy doesn't necessarily mean that you are a computer scientist. That's a whole other thing. And it really wasn't something I wanted to do, but you made me think about that. And then later, when I was going to finish my bachelor's in psychology, I happened to take an anthropology course, and it was like my first, I'll say female, yeah, female doctora Latina. And she was teaching anthropology. And I just fell in love with everything she was teaching. I took a lot of the like Mesoamerica, the Latino America, and just like being just in awe of all this history of us that we just don't even know about, right? Like isn't really taught about, like the fact that like our people at one point, like if you go back to like Peru, were like 6 feet. They were tall people, but it wasn't into the cultivation of corn that we started to get smaller and smaller because we stopped eating as much meat. And that's why we're like tiny, right? And you can really see this actually in this present day in Guatemala. Their people are very, very tiny, but they have very limited nutritional foods there, especially like they don't have, there's mostly in the mountains, so there's not as much milk and protein products for them. And so, it goes back to nutrition, right? You give good nutrition and your genetics will flourish. You have poor nutrition and your genetics will do what they can. Anyway, that's a whole other sidetrack story. I don't even know where I went
No,
there.
I love this. I love learning. Are you from Peru?
No, no, my family's
Or
from Mexico.
oh, okay, okay,
No,
okay.
no, it just
I thought
really
maybe.
like stuck in my mind. Like maybe because I'm a short Mexican. I don't know.
I was gonna say I just visited Peru and I've been to Guatemala, so I'm a fan of, the places and the people out there, the culture.
Well, then you've seen how short some of the Guatemalans can be.
I blend right in with everyone. I'm 5 feet, so
Oh, well, if
I'm right
you
there.
if you ever went to the well, I'm just that tall too, but like the indigenous communities, because I spent a whole summer there, and the indigenous communities, like I was actually tall there. just to give you perspective, like it is
Oh,
very, very in the highlands, in the mountains, like the cities north
yeah.
of Guatemala City. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I highly recommend visiting, but I don't, you probably need a tour guide, not specifically you, but in general, anyone listening, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very different. Just a whole different world. It's like you go back in time, but everybody has cell phones and the internet. I will say that.
That's all I need.
Okay. So let's get
Okay.
back to the questions. Now, you kind of talked a little bit about what you recall kind of thinking were your interests, but at the time as a child, did you have any career role models that you imagine yourself being like?
Given the context that I just explained, I can't, I honestly can't recall a particular person that I saw as a role model in terms of, well, career. Obviously, all of my parents were always role models, but no one in particular. I just imagined myself being a professional Latina. And since we were immigrants, making just like anybody else, making the sacrifices worth it and knowing that I have many more life opportunities here than I would have in Mexico. Who knows what I would have done in Mexico. Definitely not been a doctor, a PhD Latina. So I always saw myself, being disciplined, having my life together, balanced life, living a comfortable life. I thought that working hard in school would lead me to this life. I also, wanted to be an advocate for the community. Just because, like I said, the way I grew up, there was much support or resources for us. So I knew that that was important. But other than my parents, I can't say there was one particular person.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of us don't ever have that. And,
Yeah.
sometimes media, like, mainstream media can't understand why a person of color would need someone to look like them on the screen, right? And that's part of it, right? So you can connect with what you're seeing so that you can believe that it's
hmm
possible. So now, can you tell us about your educational background? Did you go to college immediately or did you start later?
Okay, so my education was quite a long journey. As a high school student, I applied to 8 schools, right? Because we have the fee waiver. So for Cal States and here in Santa Barbara, we have a fee waiver if you're considered under resourced for Cal States and for UCs. So I did that, and that was a total of 8 schools. And I got accepted to all but one. And this one was the one I wanted to go to because it was the local college, the UCSB, UC Santa Barbara. So then I had to kind of make a decision if I go out to for a school that's further out with no one, like absolutely no one I knew, and I would be the first one to leave home and everything, or stay at the local community along with my friends and older brother. And it was comfortable. I'd be home. It wouldn't to me be too much of a life change for me. So that's what I did. That's the route I chose. And I was there for 3 years at Santa Barbara City College. And then after that, I transferred to UC Berkeley. So that was another 2 years. And at Berkeley, I studied abroad twice, which I know is not very common for transfer students, but I was able to do summer abroads. So that was easier instead of taking a whole semester abroad since I was a transfer student. After I got my bachelor's, I still didn't quite know what to do with myself in my life. So I took 2 gap years. And in those 2 gap years, I was exploring possibilities. I went back and I worked at the city college that I attended. And it was there that one of my supervisors kind of proposed the idea of attending graduate school. And I said, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm capable. I don't know if I have what it takes, right? We doubt ourselves a lot. And well, she really was insistent and she made me kind of really then consider it. So I reached out to one of a faculty member there at UCSB in the program in education, and I let him know that I was interested in graduate school. And small world, it's quite interesting. He was the PI, the principal investigator of a program that I was part of as a high school student. So when he learned that, he was super excited and he learned about my interests and how it aligns with his interests. So he said, Anna, apply. I will be your advisor, your PhD advisor. And I was like, yikes, let's do it then. So that's how it happened. That's how it happened. And I was at UCSB for 6 years and a half. It took me some time to figure out the ropes and how to just do research and all that, because I did not do research as an undergrad. I didn't have a path laid out. There was no roadmap for me. I kind of just took decisions as the information I had available to me at the moment. And so that's why it was a little bit more of a lengthy journey to finish my education. And fun fact, since I did go to school at UCSB, actually, I don't think I said that, but I went to grad school at UCSB. So that is in my local community. So it was like I was from the community for the community, which is empowering yet interesting. And my dad was also a gardener there at UCSB. So while I was a PhD student, he was a gardener, worked a staff at UCSB. So it was a unique experience. I think it's important to mention too that I was not a straight A student. I did struggle academically in school, understanding how to school, how did I best study, how to approach a professor for support, all those things took me, it was challenging for me as a first-gen college student. But, I think that my inner drive to reach my goals was stronger than my fears and stronger than my self-doubt and stronger than all the challenges, systematic barriers that are in place. So I just kind of showed up day after day, and then the world just opened up. So that I'm a big advocate of that.
Yeah, definitely. Persistence. Persistence is really important. It's also important to know when to stop persisting, but that's for another day.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my case, I knew that this is what I wanted to do, and I didn't know how or what it would take, but I just kind of advocated for myself a lot, and people were there willing to support. So it was kind of just taking initiative on my end, and then things just kind of happened. Not just happened, right? There was a lot of work that took place, but
fell into place, I think, is more the words for it,
yeah,
because
just being open.
a lot of times, I think, especially as a first gen college student, you know that the resources exist. Like, part of you knows, and then part of you wants to. And I'm speaking from my own experience as a first gen.
Mhm.
And it was really that, like, I want people to just know me. I just want them to know me and know that I'm valuable, because all of high school, I was seen as a smart student, like opportunities were always coming to me, which I think going into college, then I just expected that same type of treatment. But I'm just another person. It doesn't matter, I'm a person of color or not, it doesn't matter. Like, you have to go and make those opportunities for yourself. And I think it took a good while for me to understand that. And I think it's that resistance of, like, well, maybe a form of entitlement I hadn't even thought about before, right? Like, I am entitled to special treatment because I'm a person of color and I'm smart and blah blah blah, right? All these things these barriers we create in front of ourselves, instead of stepping out of where we're at and being like, okay, what is it that I want and what do I need to do to get it? Right? Am I doing what I need to do? And oftentimes, if you ask yourself those questions, am I doing what I need to do? That you're probably going to say no. I mean, no, I definitely wasn't doing what I needed to do in regards to getting that help that I needed. I wasn't asking anyone. I was just hoping that somehow somebody could read my mind.
And there's also the point of not knowing what we don't know. So we quite don't always know what we need to do or what we need to get from point A to point B. And I think that's where a lot of, like I said, just knocking on doors and connecting with people, just you being very proactive about understanding that. But it's interesting you say that, because I was the complete opposite in high school. I was not the person people would go to for support. People did not see me as a smart one. Like I didn't develop my college identity until perhaps at Berkeley. Like I still had a lot of that, like, oh, do I really belong here? Thought mentality well into Berkeley, actually. So I think we had different experiences in that way, that getting in college, I was like, oh, wait, people want to hear what I have to know, what I have to say. Oh, that's new. So it took me time to build that confidence that I don't want to say I have 100%, but I sure feel confident now. in my abilities and all that. So anyway, we can go on and on.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, it's important to hear the different perspectives, right?
Hmm.
Because you only know yours and I know mine. And I
Hmm.
think that, it ended up hindering me in some ways, right? Where I feel
Mm.
like a lot of times A students, like minorities like ourselves, who are A students, who are top students, who always have opportunities coming to them, a lot of people don't talk about that. A lot of A students, people of color, drop out of college within the first 2 years. And the C students and the B students are the ones that are succeeding. And part of that is because they had to work all throughout high school, that they already learned how to do some of these things, how to ask for help, how to know, like, oh, I'm struggling, versus a person, an A student like myself, who I'm like, oh, I get what it is. I'm fine. And then I take a test and I make a C, and I'm like, why did I make a C? Well, you didn't study. You just assume that you would remember it all because that's the pattern that you had before. So those were things I needed to learn. And I wouldn't say that my confidence was hit at that time. I think it was more in the career where my confidence, that shift. Instead, I was like, oh, okay, I don't feel as confident in, after, maybe after so long of feeling like little failed battles, then moving into a career, assuming, a degree is just going to open a door for you. And it does open the door for you, but you still have to kind of step through it. You still have to take those actions. You can't just assume that it's going to give you something.
Exactly.
So now you finish college and you start your career. Can you tell us about that? How did that unfold?
Yeah. So I actually, I finished my PhD just a little over a year ago, so it has not been that long. I finished in December 2020, which was quite interesting time to be out in the real world job market, right? There were challenging times. People were being laid off, right? And I was just coming into the job market. So I was unemployed for a good 5, 6 months after my college graduation. And, kind of blessing in disguise too, because I was able to take some time for me. I think if I would have jumped right from my dissertation during a pandemic to a full-time job with a lot of demands, I think my health would have taken a hit, taken a toll. So, it happened. And in the meantime, I was connecting with people. I was really trying to tap into what the landscape looked like in the fields I wanted to go in, which was like student affairs, director of a program that supports first generation college students. So it was really kind of reaching out to people. I was also attending like conferences, workshops, all of that. So I stayed connected. And then I got a job as a program administrator for a PsyD program in counseling psychology. So I work with doctoral students in counseling psychology, and I also do student affairs work with them. However, I've always have been passionate to work with undergraduate students, specifically the two-year college students, because I identify and I understand kind of the importance of that kind of time frame in their lives. So, but all undergraduates. So I said, gosh, I have a lot of experience. So my research was on this as well. Personal experience, professional experience, and my research was all on supporting first-gen college students. So that's where first-gen resilience came to be and was born. But before that, people had always reached out to me for support, either for scholarships, college applications, you name it, anything, from high school students to college students. And so my mom cleans houses, right? And one of her clients, she's a business oriented woman. So she just wanted to connect with me and, see what I was kind of up to after my PhD. So I kind of told her the situation, what I just explained to you. And she said, you have to stop providing your expertise for free. This is very valuable experience and knowledge that you have to share, that you need to be compensated for. Like, you can't, I know you care and you do this, out of just kind of, love for people, but anybody else would be charging. And, I said, and she said, you need to start your own business and provide coaching, workshops, all that, just for your time, financial aid, whatever it may be. And that just planted a seed in my head. It planted a seed in my head. And it took a few months before I actually said, you know what? I'm gonna see how this thing turns out, but try it out. So I did. And that's when First Gen Resilience came to be. And I do share a lot of information, as you have probably found me on social media, for students. And that's just, just helpful information, resources that I think are important for undergraduate students to know, or even grad students, First Gen students. So that's that. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I know that there's a lot for me to learn and grow from. Like I said, I'm 1 year out of, completing my education. And I actually did take a class for women that want to be business owners. So either you're in the beginning stages or you're considering it. So it was a business class. So that's something that led to First Gen Resilience as well. Again, this has been very organic, no kind of set laid out plan. It's kind of been making decisions with information that's available, like it happened in my education. As first gen professionals, and I have a little bit of an issue with first gen professionals because it doesn't, for example, my parents, I don't want to say they're not professionals in what they do. They are, right? And so I don't know how else I would call it, but just being in the different kind of work sector and being the first there, like understanding the culture of it, even just the how to communicate and the norms and how to present yourself, all that is different, right? Than, for example, my parents had to do. So yeah, I think just being kind of open to where things take me and open to learning. I'm a lifelong learner. So even though I'm out of college, I'm still going and participating in different things and connecting with people. Like it's just important to continue that throughout. And I'm just excited to see where it all takes me. Like I'm gonna be going in with the same mentality of, just open to ideas and initiatives, talking to people. I know that, one thing will lead to another, but that's why I'm a big advocate of being preparing for life after college while you're in college, right? It's not just about getting the degree that can do very little nowadays, just a degree. You will need some sort of connection, experience, letters of rec, skills. All of that is so important while we're in college.
Yes, yes. So now here's some of my more interesting questions I like to ask. So what has been some of the worst advice that you've received? Worst career advice?
I think I was really thinking about this one, and I think one that stood out was how to present myself, professional attire. So kind of what to wear, what not to wear, right? How to dress, how to do your makeup, your earrings. And basically that was like not bringing Ana to these spaces. It was leaving myself out. So, and it's important for me to be me fully in places where we're already underrepresented. So by not bringing my whole me, my real me to these places, I feel like it's a service and it's disempowering. So I think for me, showing up empowered is important. And what makes me feel empowered is like statement pieces, big earrings, colorful. As you can see my hair, it's blue and fuchsia. So I have these streaks in my hair. So I love color. And I know that this isn't a professional look, but again, by showing up and if you can see my earrings, I actually bought these in Peru. They're big and they're colorful. It's a turquoise earring. So it makes me feel empowered and it makes me feel like I'm me in these spaces. So I think that would be one that I had to unlearn because it wasn't serving me.
Yeah. Yeah, and really, I mean, you could be looking quote unquote as corporate professional as possible and people still overlook you, right? Like you can try to fit in and people will still not accept you. So be who you are. Of course, make sure
Yeah.
to follow what is it called? The dress code.
Yeah, still be appropriate, but make it twist it to for it to be you,
Yeah.
bring yourself, feel empowered.
Yeah. And color is not, inappropriate. I think sometimes, people may, because I know when I see people come in to work and they're looking stylish, I'm like, man, I wish I had some style because these people look great. Um, so what it has been some of the best career advice that you've received?
You know, two. One was from my parents, and what they said was to choose a career where I could be of service to others because that will make me a happy person by helping others, while at the same time I'm getting money for it. So it will make me both happy, and I'll have a career by being of service to others. So I always kept that in mind, and it's worked well so far. And then the other one is to surround with people that are where I want to be. So, kind of they will help me grow and learn their ways and their approach to things, the way they speak about things, their thought process, because obviously they have a lot more experience than I do. So if I surround myself with those people and connect, like I will be there one day. So kind of like be with, not, I don't want to say people smarter than you, but just people who understand things more than I do at the moment.
Right, right. People that will elevate you. I like that you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, because I live in San Antonio, and for the longest time, I lived in the south side of San Antonio, and I felt this need to have to stay on the south side of San Antonio. And then I kept replaying in my mind, like, I literally make more money than all my neighbors, right? Like, I can't be the person at the top. Like, there's nowhere for me to go. There's no people, there's not that aspirational goal, right? And so we moved, and I'm pretty sure that, I'm not saying that, that I'm at the bottom or anything, but, it opens up your world, really, right? If you are at the top, like they always say, if you're the big fish in the small pond, it's time for you to go to a bigger pond.
Right.
So, is there any career advice that you would like to now share with the audience?
Yeah. So something that I think is very important is understanding the power of knowing yourself, because when you take the time to know yourself, you understand your leadership style, your learning style. I think it's called biological clock. Just when you're most alert. I believe that's what that's what it refers to. But my point is, like, when you can do deep work, and when can you maybe be more productive when superficial work. When is just the time not to schedule any writing sessions because you're just not mentally there. You'll able to identify your strengths and your areas of improvement. You also want to know what grounds you, because when things get overwhelming, you want to make sure you have that thing or two or three that just brings you back to your purpose. It grounds you. What motivates, to have that somewhere in sight. So it keeps you kind of like going. For example, funny thing, so little Anna is what motivates me. So like kind of my younger self, and seeing her, like, so I have a photo of myself when I was younger next to my workstation here on my computer. And I look at it and I was like, oh, this is for you. And I keep on going. So things like that, so I understand that for me, that's something that's important. It also helps you be more intentional with your time, right? So knowing yourself will let you be more intentional with your time, and having systems in place that work for you. So you want to work smarter and not harder, but you need to know yourself. I think it's important to understand the way you work before we can have that. So that's one piece of advice. And we don't want to just kind of get by. We want to thrive, right? We don't want to like kill ourselves doing trying to get better or advance in our careers. We want to thrive. We want to have a happy life. Life is too short to just hustle and hustle and hustle, right? So I think that's why it's so important to know who you are, and set these systems in place so you can have like just kind of thrive. And then another thing I was gonna say was, what we say and what we do is so important. If we say, oh, I'm gonna do this, and we don't follow through, there's sort of like we feel bad about ourselves, like our self-confidence kind of goes down, our self-confidence, and we kind of experience like a sense of like we let ourselves down. So I think it's important to always try our best to follow through with what we say we're going to do. And that will really help with the way we feel about ourselves. And it will give us more of a motivation and a positive energy to kind of keep going. So if I say, oh, I'm going to work between 3 and 5 on this article I want to publish, right? And 3 comes and I kind of feel like lounging and watching TV instead or something, that's going to make me feel horrible later down the road. Whereas I actually do what I say I'm gonna do, like it's just like, wow, you did this, girl. Like now you can go lounge and watch TV as long as you want, you know? But I think that's so important, just kind of following through with your word. So your actions align with your words and your values too. So that was another piece that I think I wanted to share with people.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so important, right? When we let ourselves down, you can also call it cognitive dissonance. There's that belief, and then, doing the opposite of the belief that we wanted. And
Hmm.
then it causes all this internal struggle and frustrations.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, how can people connect with you if they would like to reach out to you?
So the easiest way to connect with me is either through social media and First Gen Resilience, or you can click on my website through there as well, firstgenresilience.com. You can find my email, and I also have like a inbox that you could communicate with me through there.
Great. Thank you. And I'll make sure to have all the links in my show notes, including, your website, your email, and everything else so people can connect with you. Thank you so much, Doctora Ana, for being here with us and sharing your wisdom and your journey.
No, thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure to also learn about you, Doctora Norma. I feel like we had a lot of commons, yet things in common, yet a lot of differences as well in our journeys.
Thank you for listening to the Manifest Your Career podcast with me, your host, Dr. Norma Reyes, a career and mindset coach. Learn more today on manifestyourcareer.com.